international guidelines on urban and territorial planning. While the speakers are taking their seats, I'm going to say a few introductory words, and then each of the speakers has a possibility to comment from their organizational perspectives how they're going to use these guidelines in their work and with their networks. My name is Tuts. I'm the coordinator of urban planning and design of United Nations Habitat based in Nairobi. These guidelines, and I'm just going to show you this document, they were adopted by the Governing Council of Habitat in April 2015. Since their adoption, they have been downloaded 100,000 times already from our website. So it's the most popular document in the history of our agency since its existence. So over the last 40 years. What are these guidelines? It is a document that provides an inspiration and a direction for planners, for governments, for local governments, who would like to reflect and revise their urban and territorial planning systems. They consist of a set of principles and a set of recommendations. And these were crafted by a group of experts, actually 35 experts that were nominated by member states. And several of these experts are actually in the room. Actually, the chair of our group of experts, Christine Platt, is here on the first row. And they worked together for a full period of 2 years with several expert group meetings, and they agreed on these sets of principles and recommendations on how to change, how to revise, how to reflect on planning frameworks, urban and territorial planning frameworks in their own countries and regions. I'm just going to finish by saying how Habitat is using these guidelines, and then I'm going to ask each of the speakers how they see the usefulness of these guidelines. We are using these guidelines in terms of awareness building, sensitizing governments, local and central governments, about the importance of having progressive planning systems. We are also using it as an assessment. If a government wants to review their planning system, the guidelines provide a very, very good tool to do so, to reflect whether their planning systems are up to date with the current challenges of sustainable urbanization. And finally, we're using them also as a training tool. So this is very important that they are flexible. It's a high-level policy document, but they're easy to adapt to different purposes. So now, our plans with these guidelines are, for the coming months, we're going to roll them out with different communities. We're going to roll them out together with ISOCAR for the planning community in Durban. We're going to roll them out with the local authorities in the UCLG Congress in Bogota. And we're going to roll them out with national governments in Quito. So these are 3 of the very important target groups of these guidelines. So I'm going to stop here now, and now hand the floor to different speakers and give the chance to reflect on these guidelines. How are they using this? How are they planning to use them in their work, in their cities, in their organizations? So, the first person who I would like to give the floor is Atsuhito Sadakari, the Vice Mayor of Fukuoka City of the government of Fukuoka. You have the floor, please.
Hello. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Atsuhito Sadakari, Deputy Mayor of Fukuoka City. I'm very glad, pleased to introduce Fukuoka to you on this wonderful occasion. Fukuoka City, located in Western Japan, is the closest Japanese major city to our East Asian neighbors. Cities that are within a 1,000 kilometer radius of Fukuoka City include Busan, Seoul, Qingdao, and Shanghai. Our city has 1.55 million people, and the broader region of Kyushu has 13.2 million. One big feature of our city is that the transport hubs and urban city function are accumulated within a 2.5 kilometer radius from the city center. From Fukuoka Airport, it takes only 10 minutes to the city center, Tenju. Fukuoka City has imposed strict regulations on land use in order to prevent uncontrolled urbanization. Development of areas with altitude of 80 meters or higher were also regulated. From the viewpoint of disaster prevention, water resources and greenery preservation, this shows the population density distribution in the Fukuoka metropolitan area. As the expansion of the urbanization zone was minimized for 35 years from 1970 to 2005, the population density increased sharply. Next, I'd like to talk about transportation. Until the 1970s, all railway routes were operated by private sectors. Fukuoka City government started to develop its own subway system to expand the railway network. As for bus service in Fukuoka, a private company had developed a bus route network to complement the railway system. 80% of the city is accessible to the city center within 30 minutes by public transportation. This shows how convenient Fukuoka is in terms of transportation. As a result, the average time to get to work or school is 34.5 minutes. Fukuoka's convenience in commuting to work and school ranked second out of 40 cities across the world. The British magazine Monaco ranked Fukuoka as the 10th most livable city in the world for the first time in 2014. And this year, its ranking has jumped to the 7th place. This is further confirmed by the data showing that 95% of our citizens feel that Fukuoka is livable. With all the excellent features that I have mentioned, along with the city's close location to other countries in East Asia, Fukuoka has been recognized for its excellent business environment. In 2014, Fukuoka hosted 336 international conventions. Second, after the capital Tokyo, which hosted 543. It shows that Fukuoka is an attractive city not only for residents but also for visitors. I hope you will visit Fukuoka someday in the future. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Mayor. Let me just highlight, of course, these guidelines are universal. They have been adopted by the Governing Council, by all the member states of the Governing Council of UN Habitat, but there are a number of governments that were really in the forefront, and Japan was one of these countries. And I'm just going to name the other countries. South Africa was also very much in the forefront, Uganda, France and Indonesia. And now I would like to give the floor to a representative of the government of France to make a few remarks about planning, territorial and urban planning, and the guidelines.
Thank you, Ralph. My name is Amie de Cazotte. I am the negotiator at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for Habitat 3, and I would like to thank UN Habitat for inviting me to say a few words on the international guidelines on urban and territorial planning, which were approved a year ago at the Governing Council of UN Habitat. France, as you mentioned, was very involved in this negotiation with Japan, with South Africa and Uganda, and I think the four countries were the facilitators that helped push this decision at the Governing Council, where there was a specific resolution around the approval of those guidelines. I think for UN Habitat, it is the way forward to be able to make this be a reference institution to produce normative and regulatory instruments that will then help the international community, and specifically member states and nations, and the technical bodies inside each country to develop a set of standards, to be able to improve their own systems and administrative capacities to develop sustainable urban development. And I think those guidelines are specifically important. Planning, of course, is urban planning, smart urban planning. Participatory smart urban planning is something that we see as a hugely important factor in the development of our cities for the future, not only for the transformation of the existing cities, which have to integrate the prior three dimensions of sustainable development, poverty alleviation, economic and prosperity, and of course the environmental and climate perspectives, which are now pushing the limits to our growth and the capacity of our cities to an extent. So not only for our existing cities, but also for the new cities and new urban situations which are now we are seeing this rapidly urbanizing world, specifically in Asia where we are today, and in Africa where there is a need to prepare for the future. And I think having planning tools is of course essential. I think France is has this huge tradition of planning, and we have set in our international cooperation urban planning as a very strong policy priority, and France has a huge urban development international cooperation, including financial cooperation, including in this region, where we finance the sustainable development, urban development of cities, and the climate and the planning capacity is involved in this finance. So I think from the point of view of a donor country, from an international partner in the development world, this planning guidelines, those planning guidelines will be used and is already being used by our institutions to develop a strong international activity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. de Cazotte. I just want to add that Mr. Henri de Cazotte is also the special representative for Habitat 3 of the French government. And if you have looked at the current draft of the new urban agenda, you'll find that there are very few, it's a short document, and and there are very few specific tools that are mentioned. One of them is this international guidelines. It's one of the very specific tools that is explicitly mentioned in paragraph 82 of the current draft of the new urban agenda. I hope it stays this way. I'd like to now hand over to Ms. Shipra Narang. She's the Vice President of ISOCARP, and she will talk about their organization's use of the guidelines.
Thank you, Raf, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about what we are going to do with these guidelines. For those of you who don't know, ISOCARP is the global network of professional planners from over 80 countries. We have academics, we have people working in government, we have researchers, and we have people working in the private sector, all of them professional planners. We've had a long association with UN Habitat and with other UN agencies in areas of policy advocacy, of research, of applied research, of knowledge. And we were one of the drivers, actually, of the international guidelines in urban territorial planning. We were mentioned in the resolution, which asked UN Habitat to develop these guidelines along with UCLG. And we were very much, we played a key role, I'd like to believe, in the expert group that actually developed these guidelines. So we've accompanied these guidelines from their very inception. And we believe we have the global mandate, the expertise, and the reach to actually take them forward. The good thing is, of course, that with the SDG target 11.3 and the draft of the new urban agenda as it sits today, as Rafi just mentioned, planning seems to be back in fashion. And that is something that has happened after almost 2 decades of progressive marginalization of planning in many parts of the world. Progressive marginalization on one hand, and perhaps a loss of focus and purpose on the other hand. Let's not just blame it on marginalization. Planning itself, the profession has gone through a period of loss of focus. We've lost the political purpose of planning, the purpose of ensuring justice and equity and sustainability, and rather we've been reduced ourselves to technicians and to administrators. And I think this is where the guidelines make a shift. They make a departure from this marginalization. And the interest in the guidelines, which is an excellent document, I don't say it because we've been involved in it, but really the interest in the guidelines is just one of the indicators of how important it's becoming. From ISOCARP, I think, as I said, we've accompanied the guidelines on this journey, and we're very, very happy to take them forward in 4 ways from the planning association perspective. First, of course, is the advocacy. You have to keep advocating, as you said, Raf, sensitization, advocacy on the purpose of planning, on the purpose of a good planning system, on long-term change in planning systems, and that is a consistent process, and I think we aim to do that. I think our second task would be to deploy a range of tools that ISOCARP has for technical implementation of these guidelines at local level and national level, through projects, through what we call acupuncture type interventions on the ground. But our third role is, I think, our most important one, which is to develop tools, knowledge, information, and monitoring mechanisms based on these guidelines. I think that's something we do well. How do you make these little projects replicable? How do you disseminate the lessons? How do you make these accessible? And then on the monitoring bit, also because countries have to report on 11.3, target 11.3 related to planning, how do you actually show that systems are changing? What planning systems existed before? How have they changed? How have they transformed? What are the indicators? Is it just process indicators? Are these outcome indicators? This is where an organization like ISOCARP can play a major role. And because of our global presence, but also because of our understanding of the nuances and the levels and the spheres in which planning operates. And the final bit, I think the fourth pillar of what we're going to do is capacity building. We have a major program with young professionals, with young planners, but we also have a new ISOCARP Institute, which is talking about mid-career training of professional planners, retraining of professional planners, and I think this is where the guidelines are going to be a very, very useful tool. I'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Narang, for your explanation of how ISOCARP as a planning association is going to use these guidelines. In fact, there were two organizations that were singled out by the Governing Council as having a special role, ISOCARP and UCLG, United Cities and Local Governments. I don't see their representative, therefore I would like to move to the next speaker, who is representative of the Cities Alliance, Mr. Dhiraj Ajay Suri, who will speak about how to implement the guidelines in Vietnam on multiple scales. You have the floor.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Rep. Cities Alliance earlier was pleased to partner with UN Habitat in preparation of the international guidelines on urban territorial planning, and now we are working together to see how these can be implemented in a few countries, including Vietnam and Tunisia. Let me share some information on the partnerships that have been evolved in Vietnam for the implementation of IG-UTP. Cities Alliance through the UN Habitat Vietnam team is supporting Amie and Vinon in Vietnam for the preparation of city development strategies, which are largely the convergence of spatial, economic, infrastructure and social plans for local economic development and improvement in quality of life of the inhabitants. What is being tried at the city level is the community-based participatory principle being put into practice through establishment of city forums for various city stakeholders to participate in planning discussions and decision making. The stakeholders include NGOs, civil academia, business groups, and professional associations. This builds on the Community Development Fund structure established widely with Cities Alliance support and integrates with the local government, political and administrative structures. The learning from this city-level initiative will be used to inform the national debate on urban and territorial planning framework in Vietnam. The debate will also be guided by the IG-UTP. The question is, why are we doing all this? These initiatives are in the perspective of the ongoing efforts in Vietnam for reforming the planning framework at the national, regional and provincial level for the convergence of spatial, infrastructure and social and economic plans. And this will inform similar framework to be evolved at the city level. Concurrently, Cities Alliance is also supporting the Ministry of Construction Government of Vietnam in the preparation of National Urban Development Strategy, which includes a review of legal, institutional and policy framework for urban development and preparation of a financing plan. This is what I wanted to share on Vietnam. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cities Alliance, for this good overview of how the guidelines can be used in a particular country. I've just been told by the organizers that we have an additional 10 minutes for this session because we have so many good speakers, so we can give everyone the required time. So we're continuing now with Europe because we haven't heard from Europe, and we have Amie Figueiredo here. She's from the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, and she's talking about the application of the guidelines in the European region.
Thank you, Raf. Thank you, UN Habitat and the Habitat Great Secretariat for hosting us. I come from the UN Economic Commission for Europe, which is a bit of a misnomer. We represent 56 countries, including North America, Central Asia, and the Caucasus, in addition to Europe. We are an intergovernmental platform for discussing best practices and policy development on housing and urban development in the region. I just want to talk a little bit about some of the activities that we've undertaken since the guidelines have been made available last year. We have also the UN Geneva Charter on Sustainable Housing, which has several actions regarding urban planning and territorial planning in reference to housing. The UN Charter is available at the UN Library, and I encourage all of you to take a look at it and see all the actions that are available for territorial planning. So for us, obviously as the regional commission, the regionalization of the international guidelines is critical. And as we do cover such a wide range of regions, we've realized, and through various capacity building workshops, have realized that the countries with the economies in transition are the ones that need the most help at this point. So we are focusing on those countries specifically, and with that, we just hosted in collaboration with UN Habitat in Minsk in Belarus in April this year, a workshop on kind of formulating the international guidelines at the regional level for those economies in transition. And one of the outcomes of that workshop itself was to potentially have a joint program with UN Habitat in the region for urban planners on the international guidelines. So there are many activities coming in the next couple of months regarding that. We also hosted also in April of this year in Geneva, a joint workshop with the ESPO Convention, which deals with transboundary environmental impact assessment. And we brought many urban planners together to discuss cooperation on land use planning and hazardous waste. So moving forward, we are in September at our committee session on housing and land management, discussing the potential proposal of this joint program with UN Habitat. So the committee will come up from endorsement from the committee. So some of those capacity building activities will be certain pilot municipalities. Right now we've chosen Belarus and Kyrgyzstan as the two governments that will host these pilot projects. We also hope that there will be further pilot projects in further countries that will come on board. And of course, this regionalization of the international guidelines also supports the program of work for the strategy on housing and land management, and also the Geneva UN Charter. So there are